Hi everybody, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. It has been a really busy day today within the World of Warcraft. The announcement, of course, has been made of the release date for the new expansion, which is going to be the 13th of November of this year. So pretty much 3 months to the day. And then, of course, we got our first look at the opening cinematic, which is going to accompany Warlords of Draenor 2. And boy, was it phenomenal. If there's one thing that Blizzard do right consistently, it is their cutscenes. They are just brilliant. Doesn't matter what game you're playing, made by Blizzard. Could be StarCraft, could be Diablo, could be World of Warcraft. Whenever you watch a cinematic, it is mind-blowing. This one was no exception. It was phenomenal. So I'm going to discuss the contents of the Warlords of Draenor opening cinematic, which means, of course, there is going to be spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, I will no doubt put an annotation on the screen taking you directly to Blizzard's site. You can watch it, you can enjoy it, and then return to the video and get my thoughts and feelings. Because I'm going to go through some of the myths, dispel some of the speculation which has been going on, and we can absolutely nail down certain elements of Warlords of Draenor. Which leads us on to the first point, which is the pronunciation of the actual title. Now, I initially started to call the place Draenor, and then I early on made a decision to change to Draenor. The reason why I made that decision is I decided to go back and watch some of the BlizzCon 2013 footage. And I listened to Chris Metzen's briefing again, and he constantly referred to it as Draenor. And then today, in the briefing, when they were giving it the big up, leading up until the release of the, not just the date, but of course the opening cinematic, it was once again referred to as Draenor. So I'm going to pat myself on the back for making that early decision to change from the Draenors to the Draenors. Does it really matter? I don't think so, but there we go. But the biggest bone of contention that has been with the Warlords of Draenor timeline business is just that. What exactly is going on with the timeline? Now, I thought I picked it up pretty well at BlizzCon, and as far as I was aware, Garrosh is the only person that actually gets involved in the time travel, but a lot of people just didn't seem to understand that. And they're like, no, we're going back in time to Draenor. And I was sort of going, no, we're not going back in time in Draenor. Garrosh is the only person that does the time travel. Garrosh goes back in time, alters the timeline, which causes the timeline to split. So we still get the Outland timeline, and now we get the new Draenor timeline. Think of it as a letter Y. Okay, think of the letter Y and then turn the letter Y on its side. You'll have one line that then splits into two directions. That is what happens with the timeline. So what's happened with the Star Trek timeline now with J.J. Abrams when he took over and rebooted? You've still got William Shatner's Star Trek going on. That all still happened, but you've got Chris Pine's Star Trek going on because of the change. When the time travel business happened, the change doesn't stop another timeline from existing. It just creates another one that goes alongside it. So think of it as the sideways letter Y. The timeline goes to a certain point, something alters that timeline, and then the timeline goes off at two different positions. So we get this early on in the cinematic, as it says, 35 years ago. So Garrosh goes back in time 35 years. Clearly has some dealings with his father, although of course he wouldn't be his father in that timeline, but what would have been his father, telling him the repercussions of what would happen should he drink the blood of Manoroth. So he goes back, he meets Grom, don't drink the blood, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and a plot is clearly formed, which is really cool. So we have the opening segment where Gul'dan is handing over Gromosh the chalice which has the blood of Manoroth in it. So this would have been the pivotal moment where Grom drinks it, becomes fel-tainted, his skin would eventually turn green, his eyes would burn red, they would get the demon bloodlust, da-da-da-da-da, and then all of the other orcs would follow him. They all drink the blood and yada, yada, yada. But this actually turns out to be a setup, and the setup was to lure Manaroth in. And it's quite reminiscent of the Warcraft series, where Grom and Thrall go to defeat Manaroth, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So Grom fakes as if he's going to drink it, and then he starts to question Gul'dan. What would happen? What would I have to sacrifice? What would we have to sacrifice as a race of people to drink this blood? And Gul'dan has this amazing bit where he sort of pulls back his hood. You can see his withered, twisted visage. His skin is all green because he's fell corrupted. His eyes are burning a really awkward red, as if he is almost possessed. And to a degree, he kind of is. And he says, everything, or something like that. It's really cool. A really, really cool moment. Especially for me as a warlock. Ooh, made me go all ghost bumpy. And that's when Grom shows his true hand. He hasn't brought the orcs here to drink the blood of Manaroth. He has brought the orcs here to defeat Manaroth. So Manaroth comes in as Grom pours the blood away. I ain't drinking this shizzle. And says, well, you brought all these people here to watch you die? And then all-out war starts. It was a trap. It's a trap! And the orcs start to fire on Manaroth, and we get to see this mystery stranger, this mystery stranger, the hooded figure, who has been popping up here and there in the cinematic. They try and pin Manaroth, it doesn't work. They have an iron star, which they're trying to use to stun him, to do something to, hopefully to blow him up maybe. That gets partially destroyed by Manaroth. Grom manages to get it back on track. He stuns him, and then whoosh, we get this amazing leap where he comes through the burning fire, through the explosion, and sticks Gorhal in Manaroth's head. Slightly different to how he killed Manaroth before. Before I think he stuck Gorhal in Manaroth's chest. But then we get the Thrall moment and the Garrosh moment. Our stranger is revealed as Garrosh, or will be revealed as Garrosh. And we have the moment which almost mirrors time. Once Manaroth has been pierced, it's going to explode. This is what killed Grom before. Thrall had been incapacitated by Manaroth. He'd been knocked unconscious during the fight with Manaroth, so he could not save Grom. This time, though, Garrosh does. And Garrosh jumps and pushes his father out of the way of the explosion, saving his life. Now, there's some very interesting imagery here. Not only does it mirror the whole Thrall business with Grom back in the day, not only does it mirror the explosion, which killed Grom in one timeline and didn't kill him in another timeline, but it also really shows Garrosh off quite heroically. And this is the very interesting tone of this cinematic, because these are the villains. These are all the villains of the new expansion. And yet, there is something actually very noble about them. There is something very heroic about them. Garrosh's actions come across as very noble. They come across as selfless. He wanted to save his father. This wasn't just like, oh, I need Grom alive because we need to create the Iron Horde. This was, I need to save you, father. Thrall could not do this. I want to do this. And I thought that came through. And then when Grom turns to the rest of the orcs and says, we will not be slaves. Again, this just kind of heralds the plight of these people. And if we go further into the lore of Draenor, then we'll know that the orcs suffered rather a lot at the hands of the ogres. A lot of them being tortured, being forced to fight against each other. You know, it was a very brutal land. So when Grom does address and say, we will not be slaves, you know, a lot of orcs have been slaves throughout the course of their lifetime. Instead, he says, we will be conquerors. And again, it doesn't kind of come across as evil or maniacal or anything like that. It's almost a reaction. That's how I personally see it. It's almost a reaction to constantly being under the cosh. You know, are we going to be the bitches of the ogres? Are we going to be the bitches of the Burning Legion? No! We will forge our own destiny. We will unite under the banner of the Iron Horde, and we will conquer. We will be great. So I guess, yes, it's not the nicest thing to do to go off and conquer and rape and pillage and all that kind of jazz, but it doesn't come across as evil. And that, I hope, is addressed throughout the course of the expansion. I hope this is touched upon. Because I think one thing that the World of Warcraft has always lacked, which I've been desperate for, is a redemption storyline. You don't have to kill everybody, you know? Arthas didn't necessarily have to die. I think he probably did have to die. But you get what I mean. Illidan, the same. Did he have to die? I know people are going to debate that he's not actually dead, but... you know, there's something that cries out for redemption in me. There's the villain which cries out for redemption. I don't see Grom being the final boss of this expansion. I think that is way too predictable and it would be too boring, especially considering the last boss of the last expansion was Garrosh and an orc. I think he will come into play, but I would love to see this Gromish turned. I would love to see this guy turned and, you know, and something happen, a redemption happen within, you know, something to do with Thrall or whatever. Just merely speculating here, kind of going off a wee bit of a tangent. And then we have, finally, to finish off the cinematic, we have again, Garrosh actually lifting Gul'dan up. Now, Gul'dan, of course, is the person who is Fel-tainted. Gul'dan, of course, is the person that has been in contact with the Burning Legion, that did bring Manoroth across, that was responsible for the orcs turning Fel-tainted. There's a lot of blame to be laid at the feet of Gul'dan. But Garrosh extends a hand, helps him up. And he just says, you know, this wasn't our, you know, Gul'dan says something like, this wasn't our destiny, this wasn't how our destiny was meant to be. And Garrosh says, times change. Really quite coolly. And again, he comes across as quite heroic. And the way that he's helping Gul'dan up is just like, look, I know you screwed everything up in one timeline, but dude, you're an orc, you're one of us, you're with us. And again, that kind of shows a compassionate side to Garrosh. It shows a very intelligent side to this man as well. And I didn't see this cinematic, and I don't mean this in a negative manner, by the way. I didn't see this cinematic as the Iron Horde bad. Iron Horde bad. Thrall and Nuzlocke good. I didn't see that at all. I saw a huge shade of grey. A huge shade of grey, which I believe can be addressed throughout the course of this expansion. Now, I, of course, have been on the beta, so I've done a lot of the storylines. I've leveled up from 90 to 100, and I get to experience a lot of this. And I'm not going to give anything away here in today's video. I am going to be doing a leveling series on my YouTube channel, so you can see what goes on from the point of view of the Horde and the Alliance. But what I will say is there is plenty at the end of the game, when you hit level 100, plenty of places for this storyline to lead to. And yeah, I am just desperate for that redemption. For that redemption storyline to happen. Will it be Grom? Will it be somebody else? Who knows? But I am desperate for something to happen. Will Grom turn? Will Grom have a heroic death? Will he turn back to the good side, shall we say? Back to the light side, away from the dark side. And no doubt the Burning Legion are going to play a pivotal role in this expansion. I'm already called, I believe, halfway through this expansion's life, shit is going to blow up all over the place. I think something is going to massively kick off and the Burning Legion are going to be flocking out from every orifice under the sun. And I think we're going to see an almighty change within the expansion's tone, feel. And it's at this time where we have the potential for the Iron Horde to turn and join everybody. And I know, I'm just, again, it's just all speculation, it's all brain farting, it's all things going on in my head, you know, nothing that I've said is remotely speculated at or canon. It's just where I've kind of got my suspicions about where things can go. There's no doubt that a lot of the warlords here are just, they are lost, you know. There's no way that we're going to be able to redeem them. They have chosen their path, and that's the pathway that they go down. But Grom is the character which I am intrigued to see if we can do anything with. Really am. It's going to be quite interesting. So the opening cinematic was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Blizzard 10 out of 10. Wonderful stuff. I think it offers a lot of questions as opposed to necessarily answers about the Iron Horde. Yes, they are making some wrong decisions, but does that mean that everything is bad? I don't think so. Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see where the storyline leads to the future. So let me know what you guys think when you watched it in the comments down below. And I hope you enjoyed the vid. Please do give it a thumbs up. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook and twitch.tv/HeelvsBabyface for live Warlords of Draenor beta streaming. Still 3 months of it left. And I shall be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care, everybody. Bye-bye.